a passage of Republican tax proposals would be disastrous for Connecticut's families, especially those in middle income ranges. The National Republican Tax Plan will give huge windfalls to the super rich, while Connecticut's residents would be forced to pick up the bill. It's also estimated by the Institute for Taxation and Economic Policy that more than 300,000 Connecticut households would see a tax increase under the Republican plan. And most of those households earn about $75,000, which is the median household income in Connecticut. And our residents here already pay about $8 billion more in federal taxes than we receive in the aggregate in federal funding on an annual basis. The Republican tax plan would also eliminate many of the itemized deductions that are taken by more than 700,000 tax filers in our state, including those for medical expenses, student loans, state and local taxes. This means that Connecticut residents will be paying more taxes every year to fund tax cuts for America's wealthiest 1%. We'll be paying more taxes every year to give huge tax breaks to already profitable corporations, and will be paying more taxes every year in order to give tax breaks to residents in other states.
Republicans in Congress are serving up tax increases for Connecticut's middle class and homeowners. The Republican tax plan all but eliminates tax incentives for home ownership at a time when the market is strong and when we are seeing multiple buyers bid on a property. There's no surer way to slam the door on a hot real estate market than passing the Republican tax plan. And the Republican tax plan caps the mortgage interest deduction on new homes, which subtracts interest payments from homeowners' taxable income at $500,000. And the news of the Republican tax plan, not even passed into law yet, has already hurt the home building market. Home builder stocks dropped 2 to 3% earlier this month when the House GOP tax plan was unveiled. These are home building jobs that we need in America and in Connecticut, and month-to-month construction jobs are down in 8 of the past 12 months in Connecticut.
This has been deeply distressing to me as well as to many people, many of my constituents that I have talked to about this particular tax plan. Obviously, the Republicans in Congress are giving this very serious consideration as they have been working now on it for the last couple of weeks. But the impact to Connecticut will be not just grievous, I think it will be devastating. It's going to make health care more expensive for many, many middle-income classes and families, while simultaneously raising taxes on them so they have less money with which to pay those increased medical costs. This so-called tax reform is nothing but a gift for the wealthiest 1%, financed by middle-class and working families in Connecticut and around the country. Washington Republicans should reject this plan and go back to the drawing board and work as we did here in the Connecticut legislature to come up with a bipartisan plan.
It impacts the whole state of Connecticut. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, we're all going to be harmed by this. From the tax incentives that are going to be taken away to all the other subsidies that we need to function in a state that's facing such a deficit.
This sort of hits home for me. My wife has been an educator for 34 years. She's been the principal of a elementary school in South Windsor for probably the last 7, either as principal or as assistant principal. And she hears all the time from her colleagues on how we're no longer going to be able to use some of these educational deductions, and when they're coming out of their own pocket to put supplies in for schools, and they're no longer going to be able to do that. It's a reflection of what we believe is really bad policy. I also happen to have 2 kids who've gone through college, who I hear continually, not only through them, but through their friends, about the continuation of tremendous tsunamis of college debt, now that they're both out of grad school and paying off those loans and not being able to possibly write off some of that interest, again, just continues to compound that effect. So those are some near and dear to me, and I believe that, when you talk about this in its totality, having talked to our congressman and listened to him voraciously on this, I think that this is something that they should obviously reconsider, and we should get behind here in Connecticut and really fight for our constituents.
This is outrageous to me, and it's really a sham. So again, it's an example where leaders of Washington will, for short-term gains, put it on the credit card and create long-term peril to the country and the great state of Connecticut. So I really feel troubled by where the direction this is heading. I know that the proposals differ between the House and the Senate, but the same premise is there. It's deficit spending, which is really credit card spending. We don't do that in the state of Connecticut, and Washington should not do it also.
The tax plan is an attack on American homeownership. The American dream is to own your own piece of property, your own home, and taking away anything that can allow that dream is something that is anti-American, in my opinion. We have a tax coming at us in the interest deduction, in the loss of the SALT deductions, in loss of student loan deductions. People that are trying to buy houses are scraping by. Many people are trying to just get enough money to be able to put that down payment down and get into their own home. And here, Congress is trying to make that even harder.